Now for your Daily Don Lemon. Sorry. We have to. Don Lemon had some thoughts that he felt he had to share on Charlie Kirk's memorial service, massive stadium-size memorial service on Sunday, which, as the numbers are coming in, appears to have drawn at least 20 million viewers live across different platforms. That number is almost impossible to quantify because it was, as you probably saw it was on TV, it was on Twitter, it was on YouTube. So it's not easy to get the full picture, but that is astounding. That's actually similar. I happened to be looking up the figures for how many people watched 60 Minutes in 1991 on average. Don't ask why. But it was around 20 million. And that's when everyone was sitting down and watching 60 Minutes in 1991. So to get those kinds of numbers today is incredibly rare and just remarkable, a remarkable achievement for the folks over at Turning Point USA and for Charlie Kirk's friends, families, and colleagues who wanted the world to remember him as they remembered him. So Don Lemon, though, felt the need to weigh in. Let's go ahead and roll whatever the hell this clip is.
To me, this was not mourning. This was a mobilization. And here is where we have to tell the truth here. What we saw in that arena was not simply faith-finding public expression. It was religious nationalism on full display. That is the truth. That is my truth. This is my freedom of expression. This is my First Amendment right to be able to tell you the truth from my point of view. Not just from my point of view. This is what it is. The language was unmistakable. Take the nation back for God. Restore America's covenant. This is a holy calling. That's what it sounded like. This is not the language of democracy. This is the language of domination.
You should go back and read the way that the founders of the country described the American nation. And actually, I think it's a mistake for people to do what I just did as often as they do and say, go back to the founders. Go back like 50 years and listen to how Democrats, Black, white, Hispanic, talked about the country. Go back 100 years and listen to how people talked about the country. The rapid secularization of the United States is actually a new chapter in our history. And what's closer to the norm is talking about the United States as a constitutional republic, as a, quote, holy calling. One of the books that I recommend the most ever, just in general, is Tom Holland's book, Dominion, which has, as it gets to, I think the New York Times called it like a galloping tour of Christian history. I'm paraphrasing it, but I know they use the phrase galloping. It's on the cover of the book, and it's exactly right. Long book, but as you get to the United States, you sort of see how the Christian religion that spread in the Middle East and in Europe and then into the New World was part of the conception of the United States in ways that were sort of different from how it was seen in, the let's say the Holy Roman Empire. Obviously, there's a change as the Enlightenment hits, and actually some people on the right make this mistake too. It's not a mistake. When you're arguing with, for example, like Adrian Vermeule, someone who is intellectually a giant, at Harvard. So I can't really say it's a mistake, but I think it's an error for some people on the right to wave away the Enlightenment as a secular, as the sort of time when the West secularized, rather than, I think, probably the apotheosis of what Christianity does for the human spirit and for freedom and for all of that. So anyway, this is a long way of saying Don Lemon sounds historically illiterate, and I think what we're really seeing from people like Don Lemon, and actually I want to put this from Thomas Chatterton Williams, who I really respect. I'm going to put this up on the screen. He posted some pictures from the Kirk Memorial and said, "I've spent half of my adult life living in one foreign country or another, and I don't think I've ever felt so estranged from the surrounding culture as I am from the aesthetics and sensibilities of this movement. Not even a criticism. I just feel more at home in Greece than in these images. Thomas Chatterton Williams is a really smart writer over at The Atlantic, and I think it's important to include what he said there. Not even a criticism. I just feel more at home in Greece than in these images. We obviously talk a lot about Charles Murray's book Coming Apart from 2012 here on the show because I bring it up nonstop. I'm like a broken record, but I think it's one of the most important books that's been written in modern American history. It explains 2016, it explains 2024 in so many ways, but it also explains the sort of peak woke period. It explains what we saw in the Me Too movement, and a lot of it just has to do with elite sorting patterns where you have super zips clustered around the most powerful cities in the United States. Washington, D.C. is like the highest concentration of super zips. So people who are disproportionately or disproportionately areas that are disproportionately populated by people with higher income and education than the average population. And what we've seen in the last 20 or so years, 20 plus years really, is a great sorting based on taste and based on the taste sort of follows with education and income in ways that are even more acute and even more distinct than they used to be. So we watch different TV shows, we read different books, if we read books, listen to different music, eat at different restaurants. And that is where people like Thomas Chatterton Williams will say, you know, I spent half of my adult life living in one foreign country or another. I don't think I've ever felt so estranged from the surrounding culture as I am from the aesthetics and sensibilities of this movement. And Inez Stepman, I think, put it really well. She said, among my pet peeves is people who allow what are, at the end of the day, matters of taste to obscure the plain fact that American evangelicals are, one, really good people, and two, built the greatest country in history. So Inez, as a non-Christian weighing in on that, I found very amusing. She actually also, Inez and Rachel, right before I went to air, started to goad me into a bitter debate about Protestant versus Catholic aesthetics that I found highly distracting, and they deserve to be disciplined for their actions. But that's for another time, because in this case, they will be back on soon, so I can discipline them appropriately then. But in this case, I think Inez is right on that what people are really afraid of and uncomfortable with are the tastes, the sensibility, the sort of cultural sensibilities of American evangelicals. But one of the reasons that Charlie Kirk memorial, again, you know, Charlie Kirk was somebody who was so familiar to Gen Z, maybe not as familiar to other generations, but basically a daily fixture of the Gen Z social media diet period. But I think part of what explains why the images, videos, and clips of that memorial service are resonating is because the sensibilities of it, the aesthetics of it, are really familiar to middle America in a way that they're not used to seeing from the political class. I obviously say that as someone from the Midwest who's like evangelical megachurch goer and was watching people like Michael Tracy tweet during the memorial service. Is it normal for pastors, or he didn't even tweet that, he said something like, noted that one of the pastors asked people who had, you know, given their life to Christ to stand up, and then there was a QR code that came up on the screen, and I think Tracy asked, like, is it normal for people to do this? I was like, well, maybe not in some mainline Protestant churches, definitely not in most Catholic churches, but if you're one of the millions of evangelical churchgoers in America, then of course that's familiar to you. And so it just, I think the memorial service, for all of its beauty, really exposed how uncomfortable so much of the power, so much of the country's power brokers, people in media, people like Don Lemon, perhaps, are with middle America and with the way average Americans see the country, worship, see their faith, see one another. And I mean, if you're a Christian, you have to look at what happened on Sunday and just be enormously proud. Trump had a truly awful moment when I mean, I know some people think it was a joke. I don't know that it was really a joke. I don't know that Trump would want you to say it was a joke when he mentioned that he hates his enemies, that he disagrees with Erica. He actually hates his enemies and he can't forgive them. But when Erica Kirk, if anything, what Trump said about that actually highlighted how incredible Erica Kirk's decision to publicly forgive her husband's assassin in front of millions of people live within days of it happening, just over a week of the violent assassination happening in front of everyone. What an incredible moment. What an incredible testament to the beauty and the power and the truth of the faith. So I just wanted to weigh in on that quickly because I thought the discourse from people who were operating good faith, like Thomas Chatterton Williams, was totally worth talking about in this case. Are you looking to support more made in the USA manufacturing this year? Like I am, definitely. Whether it's home decor, clothing, or furniture, it's become extremely difficult to find high quality products that aren't made overseas. A recent Forbes report revealed that annual earnings for small businesses across the US have dropped by over 75% just since 2023. Small businesses in this country are struggling to stay afloat, and with the likes of Amazon and Target dominating the market, it's no wonder. Basically, any small business owner here in the US will tell you the same thing. That's where a warehouse comes in, your one-stop shop for artisanal home goods made exclusively by small businesses. With hundreds of products to choose from, they're deeply committed to supporting American manufacturers. Their easy-to-navigate online marketplace lets you browse a wide range of independent makers, and you can feel good knowing that your purchase supports real people and small family-run businesses. A Warehouse believes that true luxury isn't about fancy labels or big brand names. It's about the dedication, creativity, and care that goes into every product. Help A Warehouse hit their goal of supporting over 100 small businesses this year. Head to awarehouseshop.com and use code PARTY for 15% off your first order. That's awarehouseshop.com, code PARTY.